Are you ready for more variety shows? I thought you might be. Very good. So far we've had video art, we've had poetry, and now we are going to go into theoretical physics. It's not often that we have an act on a show that represents an entirely new discipline that has never been represented on the pitch stage in the 4+ years we've been doing it. We had a chef make dumplings one time, that's never been repeated. We had a historian one time, talk about the history of a place. And you might say all these things are just not art, but you'd be really fucking wrong. And in this case, the wrongest of all is to say that theoretical physics is not art. Get ready, my friends. I'm really excited for this. These next 2 or 3 artists reached out saying we're very keen to share what we do at the Perimeter Institute of Theoretical Physics, big deal international institute right here in Waterloo. They're going to give you a little taste of to me, an entirely incomprehensible body of work. Our next act is a duo who come from Brazil and China, but they met here as PhD students at the Perimeter Institute for Theoretical Physics. For them, they say, science is a way to look deeper, look for a deeper insight about themselves and about the world that we all inhabit. Along with their illustrator, because get ready, this is illustrated physics, they know that much like art, doing science is also a creative process because sometimes it gives you writer's block as well. And tonight they will give you a mini lecture on a game that illustrates one of the most important results in the foundations of quantum theory, which is Bell's theorem. I have no idea what any of those words mean, but I'm willing to try and learn. So my friends, please welcome to the stage, we have Marina, Maciel, Ansanelli, and Yìlè with illustrations by Viola, Schmid. Please welcome. We're going to do channel 1 and 2, please bring it in. Here is 1 for you. Here is 2 for you. Alright, here we go. Lose your fucking mind for Bell's theorem!
Hello everyone. I'm Marina. This is Yìlè, an advanced cyberphysicist. So, the first goal of our presentation today is to show you what a physicist looks like. We brought 2 specimens. If you want to see more of us, we're having a celebration of 25 years of the Perimeter Institute. So tomorrow, we're going to have open doors in the Institute from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can go there to talk to more physicists. The second goal of our presentation is to show you a little bit of why is it that we do science and the reasons that we think it's very fun. Doing science is this process of collaborating with other people to look for questions that are deep and fun and interesting enough, and then try to solve them together and fail most of the time.
So today we are going to give you a mini lecture on quantum physics so that we can all fail, well, first try and then fail together. Probably you didn't expect that you will be lecturing at each Cabaret, but here you are. So and the way you will be lectured by us is actually by playing games, because believe it or not, playing games is a common practice in modern day quantum physics research. So we are being serious. Also, this game will be a cooperative game because science is all about collaboration, no competition, you know? Well, how do we play this game? So in this game, the main characters are Alice and Bob, and they will be collaborating with each other, not competing with each other. And your goal is to help them win the game together. Once you win the game, the kitty will be happy. If you fail the game, well, the kitty will be sad. So, yeah, sit straight, pay attention, and now welcome our game master, Marina.
The way that this game works is that Alice and Bob are going to learn beforehand the rules of the game, like what do they need to do to win. That I'll tell you in a minute. And then they're going to meet and discuss a strategy to win this game. So they're going to write the strategy on a piece of paper so they don't forget, and then they'll show one number to Alice and one number to Bob. This number can be either 1 or 2. So I have 4 possibilities. Either 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, or 2, 2. Here is just one example where I said 2 to Alice and 1 to Bob. Then I go to Alice, for example, I say number 1. She gives me a gem back. She's going to choose either the blue gem or the red gem. Okay? And same thing for Bob. For each one of them, I say one number, they give me 1 gem. But remember, they are in different sides of the galaxy, so Alice does not know what's the number I told Bob. Bob does not know what's the number I told Alice. And they don't talk after I said these numbers. Alright, now how do they win this game? I want them to satisfy certain conditions. These conditions are like this. So here are the 4 possibilities of numbers that I can tell Alice and Bob. If I say 1 to both of them, I want them to give me the same gem. So it can either be blue, blue, or red, red. It doesn't matter, but it has to be the same. If I tell them 1, 2, I want to receive different gems. So it can be either Alice blue and Bob red, or Alice red and Bob blue. It doesn't matter. Same thing if I say 2, 1. But if I say 2, 2, I want to receive, again, the same gems. Now, remember that I said they were discussed before to come up with some strategy to win this game? The strategy is something like rules. For example, Alice is always going to give the blue gem. Bob is going to give the blue gem if I say 1, but the red gem if I say 2. This is one example. This example is not going to win this game all the time. But now I want you to think of a strategy that would win this game all the time. And we're going to give you 1 minute to think.
Oh.
Or to ask questions if the game was not clear. So that's
Okay, countdown starts.
We did the board too.
it. From.
Yes, you are.
Fast.
Thank you.
Come on.
If they agree that 1 is always red and 2 is always yellow.
Yes. Very good. I had something similar, like inverted, but same idea. So both Alice and Bob are going to give me the blue gem if I say 1, and the red gem if I say 2. This wins the game all the time because, for example, when I say 1, 1, I'm going to receive blue, blue, so satisfies the condition. If I say 1, 2, I receive blue, red, satisfies. If I say 2, 1, I receive red, blue. And if I say 2, 2, I receive red, red. So I satisfy the condition all the time. And that's good. The kids is happy. We win the game. Congratulations. Now, we're going to play a second game that is a little bit different because the game master, it's not me anymore. Now it's Yìlè.
Okay. Now let's play the second game. So the setup of the game is exactly the same as the same one. So Alice and Bob, they will meet before they go to their own station and they discuss the strategy. And then after they go to the station, I will tell each of them a number and then they have to give me a gem based on the number I tell them. But the winning conditions, now they are different because, well, cat is unpredictable. So today the kitty came up with a different winning condition for you to try. Now the winning condition is as follows. If I tell Alice and Bob 1, then I still want to receive the same gems. But if I tell them different numbers, now I want them to still give me same gems. So if I tell Alice 1, Bob 2, I want to get either blue, blue or red, red. And similarly, when I tell Alice 2, Bob 1, I also want to get blue, blue or red, red. But if I tell them 2 to both Alice and Bob, now I want to receive different gems.
Oh, fuck.
Okay, so again, you have 1 minute to think of the solution.
Agora não dá.
Any guesses?
Abaixa.
There's a yes, there, you. What's your guess? Oh, what's your solution? I saw there was a hand. Oh. Okay, sorry.
So if Alice will always give blue, whether she's told 1 or 2, and then Bob gives red if he's told 1, and blue if he's told 2. No.
blue when it's 2. Then let's look at the condition one by one. So for the first condition, when I tell 1 to both Alice and Bob, so Alice will give me blue. But in this case, I think your solution was to say red with 1. So already you cannot cannot satisfy the first condition. But let's also look at the rest of the conditions. In the case where Alice has 1 and Bob has 2, now you will have Alice give blue and Bob gives also blue. So in this case, it's satisfied. And the third condition, when Alice has 2, Bob has 1, Alice will give blue, Bob will give red. So, well, this will also cannot satisfy. And in the last condition, when they both have 2, this is the case where Alice gives blue, Bob gives also blue. Okay, unfortunately, this one also cannot be satisfied. So hardly you can win the game 25% of time, like a quarter of the time. So can we do better? You choose. Okay.
I can think of a way to increase the chances of winning the game.
Okay.
Right? So Alice does blue all the time, but Bob gives red every other 2.
Every other 2 means.
So on the first 2, he would give a blue. On the second 2, he would give a red.
Yeah.
So that would increase the chances, but it will win all the time.
But remember that Bob does not know what's the number that I said that Yìlè said to Alice.
Yeah, right. So Bob didn't know whether it's one combination or, for example, it's 2 other combinations.
But it wouldn't matter because so Alice is given 1 gives blue. Bob says 1 gives blue. Alice gives 1 is given 2, still gives blue. Bob gives 1 again and then gives red. So it's alternating.
Or is this just one round?
So they don't know what's the number that we're going to
No.
How many times do you tell them? Just one time you tell them?
Yeah, just one time.
I was like,
Okay, sorry.
Just a single dingle.
You can read.
Right, okay, because of time, we
There's
have to.
some hands over here.
You can reframe this solution so it works in a one-shot situation by having him flip a coin if you want. Instead of doing it every other time and then iterate a thing, you can just like flip a coin and then.
Okay, now we have a more complicated solution, but
You
because of
can
time.
save this so it makes sense, but
Right. I will tell you that you still cannot make the kitty happy 100% of the time because this time kitty is being difficult. In fact, you cannot win this game 100% of the time. And in fact, the best you could do is only to win 3/4 of the time. For example, here is a very simple strategy that can achieve this, where Alice and Bob, they always give the blue gems, no matter what number I tell them. Because in this case, you can satisfy the first 3 conditions, but you will fail the last case. Therefore, you can only win the game 3/4 of the time. And in fact, you can try to make the strategy more complicated, for example, involving throwing a dice or coin, but you will figure out that actually you just never can do better than that. So here we have an inequality. Well, we're doing physics, so we need equations, and this is an inequality. It says that the probability of winning this game is less than or equal to 3/4, or equivalent today we say 75%. And this is actually a very famous inequality, which we call the Bell inequality in quantum physics.
But what is quantum physics? It's a theory that predicts what are going to be the results when we make experiments with very tiny particles, for example, electrons. But everything we did here, everything we did here so far doesn't have anything to do with quantum physics, right? We told you this was a quantum physics lecture, but we're just playing this silly game. The thing is that Alice and Bob are now going to use quantum physics to make the kitty a little bit happier. So, they're going to play exactly the same game. Yìlè's going to go there, give them a number, they're going to give a gem back. But the type of strategy is different. Remember, before, they had this strategy that they meet, they think about some strategy, they write it on a piece of paper, then each one takes their piece of paper to their spaceship. And when Yìlè comes with the number, they look at the piece of paper, they're like, this is what I need to do. And then they give the gem. Now, they're going to have a quantum strategy. Meaning that when they match, instead of writing what they're going to do on a piece of paper, they're going to prepare 2 quantum particles, let's say 2 electrons, that share a property called entanglement. I'm not going to say what is entanglement. The only important thing for you is to know that they are special electrons. They're not your average electron that you find in the supermarket. And then Alice is going to take one of these electrons and go to her spaceship. Bob is going to take the other electron and go to his spaceship. When Yìlè arrives, let's say to Bob, and says, number 2, then instead of looking at a piece of paper, he's going to look at his electron, observe its properties. I'm not saying how this observation works. And decide whether to give the blue or the red gem based on this observation. Okay, Alice does the same thing. With this quantum strategy, Alice and Bob can win this game 85% of the time. So we can do better than what we did with any of those strategies that you can write on a piece of paper. And this is pretty impressive because, in fact, any strategy that does not use quantum physics is essentially one strategy that you can write on a piece of paper. So this is pretty cool, pretty profound. I'm not explaining to you how we got this 85%, because to understand that, you would have to have finished your undergrad in physics. But the fact is that it's possible. This was first theoretically predicted by this guy called John Bell in 1964. This is why we call this Bell's theorem. And since then, this has been experimentally verified many times, meaning that people went to the laboratory and literally played this game, but with quantum particles, and saw that you can win the game more than 75% of the time. And this result won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 2022.
So it won Nobel Prize, of course, because it's important, but how come it's just a game? So in fact, this game illustrates a super simple example where if we have access to the quantum system, we could do better than what we usually do. So tomorrow, if you saw on TikTok, like saying that quantum computer can do better than classical computer, meaning that everyday computer, now you have a very concrete task in your mind where actually you do see quantum advantage. Furthermore, this theorem won the Nobel Prize because it actually illustrates that our previous understanding of the nature is incomplete. Because, as Marina said, whatever strategy we could come up with without the access to quantum systems can essentially the ones who can write down on a piece of paper. And we cannot even explain how do you get 85% of this winning probability with quantum system. And in fact, even though we could mathematically predict it, we could experimentally show it, scientists still don't know the underlying reality, the microscopic reality governing these tiny, tiny particles that allow us to win 85% of the time. And different scientists, they actually have different opinions and they fight about it. So that's why we are writing a book, not for you, but to explain this very important result in quantum physics. And the hope is that maybe one day, probably not us, not you, but maybe the next generation can help us solve this mystery. And also we hope that at least today's mini lecture, instead maybe you're a little bit curious about physics, maybe you could also reconsider to enroll to university. Maybe at least once the book come out, buy the book and then ask your kids to go to university.